What's poppin', pimps? Today we're taking a look at Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remastered. Resynced. And if you haven't been living under a rock these last few months, then you already know that tomorrow, July 9th, 2026, is when the game fully releases. So I was able to get early access to the game, and I've got about 20 to 22 hours so far, and boy, do I got some thoughts for you. So come on in, let's get to these thoughts, and let's strike while the anvil's hot. Get it? Because the engine that Ubisoft uses for the game is called the Anvil. So firstly, thank you to Ubisoft for providing the code for early access, but like with any title I get to preview, I always buy an extra copy to make sure that my money is on the line just like yours. And this time around, I'm also going to be investing in a physical copy, with all the Sony shenanigans going on, but that's a conversation for another time. The footage you'll be seeing today is mostly my PS5 Pro playing on performance mode in 1080p. And while I do think that this setting is equivalent to the PS5 quality mode, I'm definitely not Digital Foundry, so I'll leave it to those guys to give you all the tech specs and details. For me though, these first thoughts of mine after about 20 hours of gameplay are from the perspective of this game being a love letter to the original Black Flag entry. Not so much a review of how Black Flag the game is itself, but I will get into a few topics where there is distinction here and there that wasn't in the original itself. So Black Flag Resynced is rebuilt from the original game on the Anvil engine, and for the observant among you, you'll note that this is the same engine used in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, what does that mean? Well, to start, visually, the game is, and I can't lie here, gorgeous. Again, I'm not a pixel peeper, and I couldn't tell you about all the visual optimizations that go into that, but remember, the original Black Flag game came out in late 2013, 13 years ago, which means that this, with the older visuals, are dated compared to what you're seeing now. So don't let the nostalgia goggles fool you. From a rendering and sharpness perspective, there is more going on in each camera frame that you see today than what we saw 13 years ago. And what is going on is also rendered sharper and with newer techniques like ray tracing. So coming from the Anvil engine, unfortunately, does also mean that the same things that I didn't enjoy in Assassin's Creed Shadows are also present here in this game as well. The chief among them for me is the dialogue animation and the lip syncing. 13 years ago, Black Flag was animated for cutscenes using motion capture of actors to really get the accurate body language and facial expressions for the performance of characters like Edward Kenway. But through the Anvil engine, that's kind of been replaced with what seems like an approximation of how a character should move and how a character should look when certain things are happening. From what I've experienced, this ends up resulting in facial expressions that range from slightly awkward to just outright not consistent with the moment. And this, for me, while it is a benefit to the company for not having to spend the extra time and money to try and recreate the previous performance, this is a miss for me in trying to keep this version of the game as faithful to the source material as possible, as it really just feels like a shortcut for the sake of saving effort. So leaving visuals for a moment, I'm sure you're asking yourself, but Cherry, a ton of games look good. How does the game play? Honestly, really well. You could probably break down the experience of the entire game into 4 parts as far as gameplay is concerned. You got missions, you got parkour, you have combat, and then in general, naval shenanigans. So let's start with missions and we'll go from there. So with missions, you'll obviously be following along the journey of Edward Kenway, our GOAT, on his journey as he grows both as a pirate, trying to make it while avoiding the king's finest, and as an assassin, trying to understand the invisible levers moving the world while trying to stop Templars from controlling those very same levers. Now, this will see you journey into cities like Havana, islands like Dry Tortuga, and man, I gotta say, I know it's been over 10 years since I played the original, but it feels good to move around and get through missions in these overhauled environments. Naturally, you'll be tailing folks, taking out targets, either by tackling situations quietly or taking on them loudly as the need arises. A nice quality of life change here versus the original is that if you're spotted in one of these tailing missions, you don't just automatically fail the mission. You just kind of got to make do and run the fade, really, and then move on to following the clues that you did get to be able to complete the mission objective. Now, I don't have footage, unfortunately, of what that looks like, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but that's because I never failed any tailing section in my 20 hours, so you gotta hold that. As the game inherits a lot of technical benefits from Assassin's Creed Shadows, it also inherits a lot of UI elements as well. So main mission objectives you'll see are marked with that iconic exclamation mark. Hints get marked with those same iconic colors, etc., etc. Overall, the main plot, the missions of the game, remain faithful to the original story, as it does still follow the life of good old Eddie Kenway as he gets into his shenanigans, both pirate and assassin. With side activities and missions, you'll get a chance to do a bunch of things like hunting sharks, random combat encounters to save NPCs from the Spanish military or the Redcoats, And one of the funnier ones for me that I didn't remember from the original, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but bar fights. Legitimately, one of the activities in new areas like cities and towns is you pull up on a bar, you say hi to the barkeep, and then some reason the dude wants to smoke with you. So it triggers a bar fight, and now you get to run the fade with 3 of his homies. And honestly, it was fun and a blast every single time. I got a good chuckle out of it the first time, and it's a quick reminder that sometimes it's little things in video games that make the experience worth it. With regards to parkour in the game, parkour in Resynced definitely feels like it's had some progress as well. Now, if you've played any of the original Ezio trilogy games, you know the pain of wanting to jump up or to the ledge in front of you, only for Ezio or Connor or even the original Edward, honestly, to decide that they want to make today their last day on this earth, and they just completely jump off some roof. All of that has not happened to me while I've been playing Resynced. The parkour feels a lot tighter, and if you go to the settings like I did and enable advanced parkour, you get to do things like manual wall ejects, jumping while standing in one place, and just in general having more granular control over your movement. It genuinely feels good to run around, even if your, well, running top speed isn't as fast as I'd like it to be. But that might just be a me thing at the end of the day. But you gotta ask yourself, why would you be running when the combat system allows for you to be a demon in a fight? If I had to describe, the combat system here in this game, I'd use the word probably compromise. The new overhauled system uses a combination of abilities that have small cooldowns, but at the same time, there is no leveling system associated with the ability. So they don't get stronger or scale poorly in instances. You just have to use them at the right time when openings present themselves. On my PlayStation, holding R2 and pressing any of the face buttons, triangle, circle, square, X, will give you access to physical abilities for Edward. And from there, it's up to you and your health bar to win the fight. Mix that with the perfect parry system, and it gets real active when you got 2 swords and 4 pistols strapped on you. I am also happy to report there is no traditional RPG leveling system for the enemy, so you don't have to deal with any damage sponges like in some of the newer titles in the series, but rather the enemies will have archetypes, so like heavies that swing with the force of God, or the nimble evasion enemies that dodge throwables and shots and things like that. Alongside this, we also see the return of the Hidden Blade insta-kill. So it doesn't really matter what kind of enemy it is, if you can sneak up on them, you can kill them in the classic Assassin's Creed fashion, with the press of a single button. New to Resynced, however, is the introduction of a guard meter. So you'll see a small yellow bar above the enemy that, when broken, allows for a small window to perform a takedown, which is basically a nifty animation, depending on what weapon you're using, that will let you take out the rest of the enemy's health bar. I would personally recommend experimenting with getting takedowns next to walls and destructible boxes because there are some really satisfying animations to see in the game. Overall, it feels like a good balance between the old way of just defending yourself until you can counter, like in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood and Revelations, and the mashing of abilities and hoping for crits in the more recent titles like Odyssey, Valhalla, and Origins. Personally, landing this game's combat system at a really rough 9 out of 10 for me, basically. The -1 for me is going to be the combat quirks that seem to be inconsistent with, well, physics. For example, certain unblockable attacks, when initiated by enemies, even when you yourself are clearly out of reach, the enemy finds a bit of an unnatural way of sliding through their attack animation to close the gap, and they land a hit on you if you don't preemptively roll or dodge, almost like the attack is like a homing missile on you. But again, this isn't something that you encounter very often, and it definitely isn't the worst combat system I've ever dealt with, especially in a pre-day 1 patch situation. Now, it can't be Black Flag without the naval experience, and without a doubt, the naval experience is back and better than ever. For my OGs, you'll recall that Black Flag wasn't actually the first Assassin's Creed game to have ship gameplay, and naval combat in general actually started in Assassin's Creed 3. But here, in Resynced, it's fully present and not shying away from what the game has to offer. Just like before, the Jackdaw, your ship, is the heart and soul of your time in the ocean, with all the old original weapons making a return, but you got a few twists this time. This time around, there are some adjustments, like having secondary modes of firing. For example, you have some heated shots instead of the regular broadside cannons, and you get the Assassin's Creed Rogue style of manual aiming for the smaller weapons. And that definitely gives you more tools to cook with when you get into some of those heavier combat engagements with brigs and frigates and things like that. Not gonna lie also, fam, in any of the AC games that had naval elements, historically speaking, I've always been more of an on-land kind of player when given the option and choice, but with what we have on the Jackdaw mixed with that new, Kenway fleet overhaul and naval contracts, this time around, I got a lot more reason to stick with being out on sea, and hearing some of those new shanties and going pirating in the Caribbean doesn't hurt at all either. Before I get any deeper into the new content for this game, I just kind of want to say thank you to those that have watched these videos and the streams in the past. Since I stopped streaming in like late 2025 for now, I've been a bit slower as far as, getting back into the swing of things, posting consistently. And now that I have the new Charius IG, as well as getting back into posting on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and on the main channel now, I just wanted to say that there's a pipeline of content coming through, and I appreciate those of you that have been watching this entire time, and especially those who I get to meet for the first time. So hopefully you'll stay along with the journey. But for now, let's get back into these impressions. I want to take a second here and talk about the new content and the cut content in the game. Ignoring what I've already mentioned that's new with the quality of life changes to the game, Resynced does include 3 new officer quest lines that you can follow, of which I obviously don't want to spoil and show content for on screen, and 8 brand new endgame missions to the story, as well as a huge change to the modern day plot, or I guess what little of it there was in the original. If you didn't play the original, I won't spoil the extent to which the modern day plot was there, but for my OGs, you'll remember that the Sage plotline and its connection to the modern day plot was quite important for connecting the dots of why you're playing as Edward and what that means for the overall plotline. Here in Resynced, the modern day plot has kind of been adjusted to the AC Shadow style of modern day plot, with Animus rifts that take you to a place called the Dark Animus, where you'll encounter a very different kind of take on the Animus and how it relates to your current Edward story. Suffice to say, however, as a longtime proponent of the Desmond plotline and what that entailed, and I'll give the slightest shout out here to Layla as well, I am incredibly underwhelmed and disappointed with not seeing much of a meaningful narrative progression in the modern day plot in Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. Mind you, I'm only, 22 hours into the game, so I may have to take that with a grain of salt as I get deeper into the experience, but we'll find out. Only time will tell. As for what didn't make the cut into Resynced, it's good for you to know ahead of time that there is no multiplayer from the original game, and neither is there the Freedom Cry DLC. The Freedom Cry DLC was centered around Adewale and was more of a DLC meant to complement Edward's story, not so much add like the next chapter. But since the Freedom Cry DLC was also single player, I did wonder to myself why it couldn't have been brought in as well. In the end, with the size of the map, the density of things to collect or do in each location, and the new content on top of that, well, plenty of time to get sunk into this game, to say nothing of just sailing or walking around in these graphics. So, you've heard everything I've had to say so far, so you're probably asking yourself, all right, Cherry, I get it. There's new, there's not so new, there's different, there's interesting, but what's the verdict? If you were to ask me, is Assassin's Creed Black Flag perfect? I'd say no, by no means. If you were to ask me, does Resynced feel like it has the spirit of the original at the heart of the experience? Yeah, I would say definitely so. I had this game as like one of Ubisoft's stronger entries overall, not just an entry in the Assassin's Creed series, but in general in their catalog of games that they've ever made. It's an excellent demonstration of what the Anvil engine can do. I mean, as if Shadows didn't show us a lot of technical, advancement in what they've made so far, as far as giving us something great to work with the blueprints, especially when the team has a vision. And that same team that's made Assassin's Creed, Black Flag Resynced, I should mention, has some members that have worked all the way since AC Brotherhood. So this isn't like a fresh squad of people or developers that are working on this IP. They've got some core members leading all the way back from the OG days, right? Our Ezio collection, so on and so forth. But I mean, ultimately, I'm just one guy. So you are going to have to be the one that basically, has to decide if this game is worth giving a shot. Like I always say, watch some gameplay, listen to some thoughts from other reviewers, YouTubers, I don't know, maybe your favorite Twitter person, who knows, and decide if what you've seen and what you've heard looks like something that you'd be interested in. Life is too short to be running around on the internet just being a hater for no reason. So if you like something, support it, buy it. If you don't like something, don't support it, don't buy it. I mean, really, to me, at the cost of what it's going for right now, with the standard edition being about $60 or so for this, just the basic content, I mean, I feel like there is a AAA amount of content in the game for a game that's not being sold at AAA price. Now, you could draw the distinction and say, oh, well, the $10 isn't what separates the AAA. Sure. But for me, if you're going to ask am I going to get $60 worth of gameplay out of this game? 100%. I already got the game for free from Ubisoft. Again, thank you for that. But second to that, I buy my own code anyways, or I buy my own copy just so I can have a physical copy, right? And I have no issue paying for that because I'm definitely getting my money's worth out of this game. And that's, taking into consideration the new content, the modernization efforts, the Anvil engine stuff that makes it definitely got a fresh coat of paint and built from the ground up now. So I think this is a good one, definitely a good entry, no doubt about it. But that's all from me. Subscribe if you're new. Join the Discord if you want to respectfully yap and argue about game opinions. And check out my other channels for clips and long-form gameplays. I have the unedited version of my entire run on my Cherries Plays YouTube channel. TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts will hold the short-form clips. And then outside of that, I will catch you in the next one. So, as per usual, be blessed, never stressed, packing, never lacking, good, never hood, be about it and never without it. And I will catch you in the next video. Peace.
That's life.
That's life.
That's what all the people say.